Okay, so in this lecture we are going to learn about the timeout, set timeout and clear timeout functions. So as a developer, it is not very important to understand what is the syntax and what is the implementation of a particular function. What is really important to understand is when exactly we need to implement that particular function. So first thing we need to understand is why in which situations we might want to use this set timeout function. Okay, so that's what we are going to see here. Okay, so let us suppose you have a case wherein there is a script 1 and you want the script 1 to create certain HTML elements. So through JavaScript you are creating certain HTML elements, and script 2 is supposed to access those HTML elements using the ID. So in these cases what you need to do is, like, first script 1 has to load, then it has to create the HTML elements. Meanwhile, the script 2 shouldn't get executed. In these cases, what you will do is you will just set some timeout on the script 2. You just say that wait for 5 seconds and execute, hoping that the script 1 will get executed within that 5 seconds. Okay, so just to add some delay until certain event happens, right? Just to give some time before it gets executed. In those scenarios, we use this particular timeout. So let us suppose the script gets executed within 3 seconds. Still the script 2 will wait for 5 seconds, but that is okay, right? Because it is executing only after script 1. But there is a drawback that it will wait for 5 seconds, though the script has executed a little bit earlier. Okay, so let's now see how exactly we need to implement it. Okay, so I have created a HTML file here, index.html, and this is the boilerplate code, and I have also tagged the script, linked the JavaScript to this HTML file, and in this script I just put some alert. So let's open this file and see if that alert comes. So yeah, the alert has come here. So it means that my HTML file and JavaScript file are linked properly. So for the implementation of this set timeout function, we'll just refer this one and we'll just copy paste the code. Okay, so this is the calling of a particular function, set timeout. Okay, so we'll just copy paste this code here. Okay, so this is the set timeout function. So what we are saying here is set timeout for 3 seconds, and after 3 seconds call this particular function, and the function definition is given here. Okay, so this thing we'll copy paste again. So this is the function definition. So set timeout we have for 3 seconds, and after 3 seconds we call this function and we'll get the alert. Earlier when we opened, we got the alert immediately, but now when we open the page, it should wait for 3 seconds and then it has to call this particular function. So that's the whole purpose, just to add some delay. So it has opened and it waits for 3 seconds, then says hello. Okay, so if you want to display any message to the user, okay, so once he has logged in, he has gone through certain content, then you want to alert maybe after 2 seconds or 3 seconds, saying that do you want to enroll or register for this newsletter, right? After he spends at least 3 seconds on your page, then you want to give that pop-up. So in those cases, this will work well. Okay, so let's see then what is all about this clear timeout function. So we have this clear timeout function also here. So why do we need this clear timeout function? Okay, so let us suppose we have this case. Okay, so your user is using your website, and if there is no keyboard or mouse action, let us suppose, then you want to wait for 5 seconds. Like, you want to see at least for 5 seconds if there is no user action, either keyboard or mouse action from the user. Then you want to give an alert. Okay, so saying that need help, so just and you give some link. Okay, he can see what exactly he has to do, right? Because because you think that since he is not doing anything, maybe he is confused as to what to do. So you might want to give an alert to help, right? But in those 5 seconds, within that 5 seconds, if again, like for example, after waiting for 2 seconds, let us suppose he has moved the mouse, then you need to clear out that timer which you have set earlier, right? Because he has moved the mouse out, then you may not want to give this need help anymore, right? So whatever timeout you have set for 5 seconds to alert this particular thing, that you might want to clear out. Okay, so how do we do it? So we do it using this particular function, which is clear timeout. Okay, so let's see the implementation of it. Okay, so here this is the timeout function. So let's copy paste this one. So let's copy paste this one here. So the same function, I will put it for 5 seconds. Okay, we want to wait for 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, I need to call this function, which is need help. Okay, so this has to be alerted. If he is not doing, you wait for 5 seconds, then you alert it. Okay, so I am not handling all the mouse events, which we haven't covered now, right? But assume that we set this set timeout function when there is no mouse or keyboard event happening. Okay, so then when there is no mouse or keyboard event, then we set this timeout, and we after 5 seconds we'll call this function and need help. But let us suppose after 2 seconds there is a timeout. Okay, so let us suppose I'll put it as another set timeout function. Okay, set timeout function. So let us suppose this event happened. I'm just recreating this event. So saying that user event triggered. So this user event will get triggered when there is a mouse event or mouse movement or a keyboard movement, right? Then this function will get triggered. Okay, and then what do we define in this particular function is so we just have to clear the timeout. Okay, how do we clear the timeout? Is just copy paste this function here. So ideally it should be window.clear timeout and window.set timeout, but even if you give clear timeout or set timeout, it is assumed that it is window. Okay, even alert is window.alert. So because we are all seeing now window functions, right? The functions which are part of window object. Okay, so we can just directly give them also. Okay, so now what happens? So this is what will happen. So first, let us suppose there is no mouse event or the keyboard event. Then we have set this timer, asking it to wait for 5 seconds, and then call this function, which will trigger need help. But we are assuming that this user event is triggered, means that the user has moved his mouse or entered anything within 2 seconds itself. Okay, so then what happens? This function will get triggered. Okay, ideally this function should get called from the mouse events, but since we haven't learned how to do that mouse events, I just created a set timeout as if this event got triggered within 2 seconds. Okay, so now what I'm doing, I'm just clearing out this variable, which is myvar. So this myvar contains this set timeout which we have put for 5 seconds. So this is part of this variable right now. Okay, so let's see. So ideally what should happen? What should happen when we execute this code? So what we are expecting is, since the user has moved the mouse or entered some keyboard event is triggered within 2 seconds, we are not expecting this need help alert to come. So let's test if that happens or not. Okay, so I just open this particular index.html and let's wait for 5 seconds and see if this message will come or not. Okay, so that message is not coming. So now we are clear that it has cleared the timeout. Okay, so now let's remove this one. Let us suppose there is no set timeout here. Okay, so within 2 seconds the user did not move. There is no user event happening here. So then what happens? Okay, let us test that also. So if I just refresh this page, then let's wait for 5 seconds and then we should see the alert message. Okay, need help. We got the alert message. Okay, so that's how you use this clear timeout and set timeout functions. So similarly, we have functions called as set interval and clear interval. So how these are supposed to work is, let us suppose you have set the interval for 1000 like 1 second. So every 1 second this function will be called. Okay, and it does whatever you want to whatever you want it to do. Okay, if you alert it, every 1 second it keeps alerting. If you want to update some time, which you have it as a HTML element every 1 second, then it will keep on updating that HTML element every 1 second. So after every 1 second of interval, do this action. That is what we are saying. And the clear interval is also same thing. Like okay, so the clear interval also works like exactly like a clear timeout function. So what happens is it will just clear out that particular variable, whatever timeout you have set. Like for example, here we are updating the HTML element every 1 second. So it will just clear that interval. So it will not update anymore after 1 second. So whatever interval function which we have given here, that will be cleared out and it will no more be called. Okay, so that's about these things. So hope you have got it. Let's take up the next method in our next class. Thank you.